Hi there, everyone. My name's Amanda, and I'm an intuitive card reader, a developing medium, among other things. So today's topic is worthiness and receiving. I feel like these two topics are really closely related, which is why I'm putting them together. So let's talk about worthiness. So, our sense of worthiness and our openness to receiving are directly related. I always think of balanced giving and receiving as kind of like an electric circuit. So, as something is given out, something is received and given out and received and given out and received, and it's kind of unbroken. And no one's ever depleted in that scenario because it's an equal energy exchange. So it's not just one person giving and the other person receiving. It's a loop. It's a giving and receiving is happening simultaneously. So when two givers unite, there's this complete harmony, again, where no one feels depleted or used. It feels, energetically, it feels equal. Things only go haywire when a part of the circuit is cut off. So when someone either refuses to receive or when somebody refuses to give. And our sense of, worthiness, I feel like is a pretty weighted topic because, where do you get your sense of worthiness from? I've been talking to a number of people in my life recently about this topic. It seems to be coming up a lot, so that's why I decided to talk about it. Is I feel like some of the most beautiful souls out there have been somehow trained to believe that they don't deserve to receive, or that they are unworthy in some way. And I think there's a lot of reasons why we receive that messaging, that we have to give always and never receive. But that's really backwards thinking, in my opinion. And I think it makes a lot of really sensitive, kind people end up feeling really depleted and resentful and unhappy, and there's really no need for it. I just feel like there's a lot of really compassionate, kind people who have this belief that receiving from others equals selfishness, and selfishness is bad. But I always then flip it around and I say, well, imagine if every person you gave to refused to accept your gifts, or refused to accept your help or your kindness or whatever you're offering. Imagine if everybody refused to receive from you. Wouldn't that feel bad? Like, it would kind of feel like, oh, well, why aren't you taking this gift I'm giving you? And so I always feel that way. I feel that if you're somebody who's a giver, who gives out, then absolutely you deserve to receive as much as you are giving out. To me, that's just basic truth and how things should work. But again, we're really not conditioned to behave that way. And to me, a lack of ability to receive, the core of that is a feeling of unworthiness. Like, for some reason, you don't deserve to receive. And that is just a lie, because every single person who walks this earth deserves to be loved and seen, and deserves to receive help and kindness from other people. There's nobody who is unworthy of that. Especially not you. I mean, not anybody who's listening to what I'm saying. Sorry if you hear that noise. It's just my dog over here. So how do we cultivate a greater sense of worthiness within us? Because frankly, if we don't feel worthy, then we can't open ourselves up to our full potential. it's actually blocking you from being able to help and be there for others in a really great and profound way if you don't feel you are worthy and deserving of loving kindness. It's hard to give that out fully if you aren't fully accepting and loving yourself. So, okay, let me see. Okay, so I think part of this topic of like worthiness and receiving, it's this idea of overgiving, codependency, and martyrdom. And I think like those three things are all very interrelated. At its core, overgiving comes from an abandonment wound. It could be that for some reason in your childhood, you either had someone die suddenly, you weren't properly nurtured as a child and felt abandoned or neglected in some way. And so your way of compensating for that is to overgive to others, which creates a codependent connection where now they're depending on you so they can't leave you. And a lot of times people don't see it that way, but I think most of the time that's really what's going on. It's overgiving doesn't actually come from a sense of true compassion for the other person. It is usually self-serving in some way. And I don't say that to be harsh. Nothing I'm saying here is a judgment. I can recognize some of these behaviors because I've recognized them within myself and in patterns that I've been working to break. So this is a conversation that we all are having together, and there's no judgment. You know, we have to see the things we're doing that are unhealthy in order to break the pattern. And I just feel like this is a really prevalent one. So again, it's like this overgiving comes from this need to create an attachment, a codependent attachment to somebody else so they can never abandon you or leave you. But what ends up happening from that is now that you've created this codependent connection where this other person is attached to you and feels as though they can't get their needs met without you, then you start to resent them for depleting your energy, for needing you. So you create the connection where they need you, but now you're resenting them for needing you. So now you pull in that martyr template of, oh, well, I give and give and give and no one ever gives back. When the reality of the situation is you're not giving them space to give back. So it's this kind of toxic, self-fulfilling cycle that is possible to break. But the first, step is recognizing that that's what's going on and realizing that you're allowed to have needs. Because I think a lot of people who are overgivers, for some reason, and it comes back to worthiness, they feel that they're not worthy of having needs and voicing them. So that's the really important part. So asking for help and clearly stating what you need. These are, to me, the first steps in breaking this codependent pattern. You can't be mad that someone's not giving you what you needed if you never told them what you need. If you never asked for what you need. And some people, you're going to ask them for what you need and they're not going to be able to show up and do it. And if that's the case, you can see pretty clearly, okay, well, maybe I need to reevaluate whether this person belongs in my life or not. If me having needs is a threat to them, then perhaps there isn't a true loving, compassionate connection here. Just food for thought. People aren't mind readers, and even if they're psychic and can often pick up on maybe what your needs are, it's not their job to read your mind, and it's also not their job to manage your emotions. So what happens is that overgivers tend to be really intuitive to other people's needs. So they're filling the need before that person has ever asked. But then they get resentful that they're not receiving that same thing back. Not everybody is going to be able to anticipate your needs in that way, but they might be able to learn to if you voice them. So the work here is to get really good at clearly communicating to other people what you need from them. But again, before you're going to be able to do that, you have to accept and really believe that you're worthy of asking for what you need. I just think all that is really important, that this idea of being a martyr, there's some kind of sense in our culture that this is a glorified thing, that this is something that's good to be. I see this archetype a lot of times in mothers. That's not the only place I see it, but a lot of times women, mothers, tend to get into this space where they're working a full-time job, they're running their household, they're taking care of the kids, they're taking care of all their husband's needs, and they're burning themselves out when they have a partner who's fully capable of showing up for them and meeting them halfway. They've never required that of their partner. And so it becomes this really imbalanced connection. Again, that's just one archetype. It's not gender specific or gender related, but that's just an example I'm giving you. So this idea that that we need to give up ourselves and our own needs in order to, do for everybody else. When the reality is, if you're depleted and you're resentful and you're exhausted, you probably aren't showing up for the people in your life as fully as you feel like you are. So take care of yourself, communicate your own needs. And again, in order to be able to do either of those things, you need to really believe that you deserve loving kindness and compassion. And when people tell me that they don't feel worthy, the first thing I say to them is this, if think of someone you love. If they came to you and told you that they don't feel worthy, the first thing you would tell them is, of course you are. We would never look at our loved one and tell them, you aren't worthy of being loved. You aren't worthy of having needs. You aren't worthy of asking for help. We would never say that to another person, but we're telling ourselves that every day. And we're a person too. If you would look out at the world and say, everyone outside of me is worthy of love, it goes to show that probably you are too. And in fact, that inner alignment, that ability to believe in your own worthiness and stand in your own power, that radiates out, and then you'll be able to show up more fully for the other people in your life. Part of this, I was having this conversation with a friend of mine recently, actually, and something we talked about was actually divine support. So it's not just about communicating your needs to the humans, the physical people that are in your life, but in order to connect to your divine support system, you have to be able to ask for help. And here's why. Here on the earthly plane, we have free will. So we have infinite access to divine support at all times, in all situations, in all places. They don't have time or space, so they can always come in and offer us guidance and support, but it comes with the condition that we have to ask for it. See, they can't just swoop in and save us all the time without our consent. We have to ask for divine support. And also we have to live our own life. So we can't be constantly relying on them to fix it for us. But when we're struggling, our divine support system wants to help us. But in order for them to help us, we have to ask. And you can ask in prayer, you can ask in meditation, you talk to them at any time. But again, if you don't feel worthy of calling in your angels, calling in your support, you won't ask, and you're cutting yourself off from a really important source of comfort and love in your life. They can't intervene if you don't ask. I'm also going to say, once you are able to open up more and ask for that help, then you need to get really still, really quiet, get your ego and all that other crap out of the way, and listen to the help. You have to really be able to be still and quiet and listen to the guidance that you're receiving and act on it. But that's kind of a whole nother story. So let me just make sure, I'm just looking at my notes over here, making sure I covered everything I wanted to talk about. Yeah, I think that's pretty much what I had to say. That let me know if you have any questions about worthiness, about receiving. If you want to hear me talk more about this, overgiving, codependency, martyrdom. These are really huge topics that, and I think especially in the spiritual community, a lot of people really struggle with this sense of worthiness, and it blocks you from being able to show up and fulfill your divine purpose, and it stops you from being able to love other people fully. So yeah, an openness to receiving from others is not taking anything away from them. In fact, when you allow yourself to receive from other people, you're giving them a chance to share their gifts. And doesn't it feel great when we can share our gifts with the world? Everybody wants to be able to do that. But we can't keep blocking off the circuit, cutting off the cycle. Again, there has to be a balance between giving and receiving in your life. So if you struggle with this, I guess my tip would be start small. Think about maybe one way a week that you can start saying yes to things instead of no. It could be something as simple as somebody offers to cook you a meal, a home-cooked meal, and normally you would say, no, that's okay, I can do it myself, and you say yes to it. It could be something as simple as, another really big thing that I feel like a lot of overgivers do is they apologize all the time. It's almost like you're apologizing for existing, like you don't deserve to take up space, and you absolutely deserve to take up space, so take up space. Okay? You don't have to apologize for asking for what you need. You don't have to apologize for saying no to something that's depleting to you. So, maybe try to monitor how many times you say sorry and start cutting that down a little bit. Those are 2 tips that I have on that. But like I said, comment below. Let me know if there's any questions you have, or if there's some other facet of this you'd like me to talk about more. I want to end it by just saying that your worthiness is inherent. It is unquestioned. It can't be taken away from you. It's always there. And so if no one else has told you that recently, I'm telling you that you are worthy of love in all of its depth, in all of its beauty. You deserve to receive from the people in your life and not just give. And you deserve to take up space on this earth. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. So I'm just sending you so much love and light. If you need anything from me, feel free to message me and book a reading with me. I'd love to read for you. And I just hope you have a wonderful day and rest of your week. Sending you lots of love.